Hello there, small business rock stars. How are you? Today we want to discuss if it's easy for people to give you money, right? Like, okay, you might be thinking, well, duh, of course it is. But what I've discovered for me and some of the people I get to work with is we get a little too close to it sometimes, Kylene, and maybe we need to
Mhm.
rethink a few things. So that's what we're going to talk about here today.
Yep. Yep. I love that. I mean, have you ever looked at your own buying process for your business from your customer's point of view? Um, I know we did that once, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But what do they feel? Was it smooth? Was there some bumps along the way? Did things slow down? So, no matter what your business friction is in the buying process, even those small hiccups can cost you in big sales. So, that's why we want to talk about this.
Absolutely. And so if you are tuned in live this morning, yeah, we are at a little earlier time this morning because we're heading off on a trip here. But if you're tuned in live, make sure that you jump in the comments. We want to hear from you and we want to hear how you're looking at this inside of your business. How can we make it easier for people to buy from you, to give you money, to, say, yes, I'm interested in what you do. We work so hard to get people in front of us. And then if we kill that with the things we're going to talk about here, that's a bummer, right? So we're going to
Mhm.
walk through how to identify and eliminate roadblocks, and we're going to kind of stick with the OSG Small Business Saturday flow here that as we've rebooted here. We're going to plant, prepare, and pollinate, which follows the book here. I've got it down there somewhere, and that way you can make it easier for people to buy.
There we go.
There you go. Thank you, Kylene. Yep, the Fundamentals of Business Success book follows that flow. So that is what we're going to do today, Kylene. So sound like a good plan?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right. Well, let's dive in here.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we grow through, we rise above. No more feeling stuck, we're fueled by love. Our small business is shining, reaching new heights. With the support of our success group, we're taking flight. With our word strong, with vision so clear. Building our dreams with no more fear. Together we're resilient, unstoppable force. With our success group.
Let's talk some business.
All right. We have to always play that because I love where you shove me and then the look you have in your face. It's like sheer exhilaration.
I am always giggling in the background when it comes up too. I'm like, I think I had a little too much enjoyment with that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, before we get started, let's say good
Yep.
morning to the people tuning in here. Craig says good morning, likes the early start. And Sandy from Honeybee Creations checking in here as well. Good morning to you too. Craig, yeah, the early start's good. We tried the early start for a long time and we just couldn't get people to show up. So that's why we moved it back to noon. So if we can get people to show up, if you guys go out there and share it, we'll maybe relook at that a little bit. But and then Kylene's got yoga most Saturday mornings too, so we have to work around that. But yeah,
Yep. I'm the problem.
just be the solution, Kylene. That's all we
That's
ask.
right.
All
Yeah,
right. We'll keep the comments over there on the side. So again, we want you guys to participate in this conversation, all about making it easier for people to buy from you. We're going to start with the plant phase here in just one second, kind of that why and understanding how customers actually buy. And we'll get into that. So again, you guys that are tuned in live right now, appreciate you getting up early with us this morning. You jump in the comments. We want this to be a conversation, not just Kylene and I as talking heads. So Kylene, speaking of talking heads, will you get me out of the way here and get this rolling?
Yeah, so we're going to start with the plant phase and just really understand how our customers actually buy. So kind of getting in that mindset of what it is that's going on in our brains and how we try to move forward with that purchase. So, you think about it, most of us think we're logical buyers, but until we fall in love with that one thing, we try to explain it and justify it, right?
Yeah.
You're so attached, you're going to find any story that you can to
Yeah, absolutely.
justify that purchase.
Yeah. And I know that not all of us think that we're logical buyer. I don't know. I don't mean to stereotype here, but I do think that a lot of us on the male side of the world out here think that we're very logical and we make decisions very logically.
Yeah.
And it's just not true. Every time we make a purchase, every time we decide to give away some of our hard-earned resources, there's an emotion that is being triggered, right? And that emotion is what leads to the purchase. And then what happens, right? The people that maybe feel a little bit more logical or tend to lean on their logical side of their brain a little bit more, after they make the purchase, then logic goes to work trying to justify that purchase. Yeah. Right. And honestly, we need both of those things happening inside of us for our, human nature to work. So we don't need to shy away from these emotional decisions, but we need to understand from a business owner perspective, our customers aren't going, oh, Sandy's here. Sandy's the best price and it's all right. Like, sure, that might be what's outwardly showing up, but there is an emotional decision that's being made first before they start justifying with the things, the price, the things that you include, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, some questions to kind of think about when you're looking at this is, what do I feel when I try to buy from my own business? I mean, go through the process. Do you feel excitement? Are you frustrated? Do you feel stressed? Like, put yourself in your customer's shoes. It's really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep going there, Kylene.
Yeah. I was just going to say, we tried this. This was I don't know, maybe like 3 years ago, we used an app called Hotjar. Yep. And I had a link driving people to my store, and I wasn't really getting much sales. So we looked at Hotjar, which follows the track of a customer once they reach your site. And I had them going to the wrong link, and then they were having to search then for that product. And therefore they were leaving because they probably got frustrated. Yeah. Yeah. I lost them.
Yeah.
I had their interests, and then I lost them because it was frustrating.
Sure. And this is not, all buyers aren't just like, rude people. We're so emotionally overwhelmed in general, right? We've got so many things coming at us, and there are so many options out there. So if we can start reducing these friction points, right? Because if we start thinking about this, our brain's job is our survival. That's kind of the base default of what our subconscious is all about, right? And so even from that perspective, right, if the process feels risky, like I'm unsure, again, we're giving away our hard-earned resources in exchange for something. And if we're unsure that we're going to get what we expect, or it's confusing, right, or maybe it's hard, maybe we've got a lot of math to do, or like Kylene was just talking about, they clicked on a link on a Facebook ad and then ended up at kind of a general category where that product's not even at the top of the list. And now they've got to spend time searching for it, right? Our subconscious brain is going to go, that's energy that we don't have right now to give, right? I've got to figure out what's for dinner. I got to remember my 8,000 things on my to-do list. I've got to call the kids' school, all the things that happen to us. And so it just shuts down. It says, okay, no, not right now. If they're really interested, maybe they'll leave the tab open. But I know for me, right, like, the computer restarts or whatever, right? And so I leave stuff open, and if I'm not in the moment, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, really, it just kind of comes down to confusion. Just makes people walk away. Yeah. As soon as Amazon kind of figured it out, right? Yeah. You put it in your cart in one click, boom.
Yep, exactly. And that's why they got to where they're at, right? I mean, as consumers, our default is not to buy. Again, this is an emotional decision to part with something that we feel like we need, right? We need money. If I don't have money, I can't take care of my basic needs. And so our default isn't to buy. And so we have to guide them and make that path extra clear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I'm going to just skip ahead and we have some notes here, but that just kind of leads into that emotional safety and confidence about moving forward with your hard-earned money. If you feel a little unsure, you already have some of these negative emotions happening, you're probably not going to click buy, or it's just not going to be a good experience for your customer and they probably will walk away. That confidence in what you're doing is really, really important. And then the thing that gets me sometimes is the shipping part. So you get all this done, right? And then all of a sudden you're at the shipping part, and then you don't know what it is. Maybe it's not a flat rate, maybe it's calculated at the very end, and then it's super expensive, and then you're like, the more clear you can be up front, I think the better experience it will be for your customer.
absolutely. Yeah, because every step in that order process is a potential place where someone can drop off. So, I think, and we'll talk more specifics and details about this, but as you're thinking about this in your own process, right, act like it's your first day on a new job, right? And you've got to figure out how to get from point A to point B, right? Where are the hesitations for you, somebody that knows the process, and start pinpointing those things and go from there, right? Because I don't want you guys to think that this is about offering less, or just, again, we don't all need to be Amazon with the one-click buy, but it's about really kind of understanding why our customers make buying decisions from us and how can we grease the rails, so to speak, right? How do we structure our choices better so the decisions just feel obvious and easy, and I can go, okay, yep, make that selection great. Nope, I understand what I'm going to get. Everything's clear. I don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops, right? Like I actually yesterday, Kylene, we're going to be traveling here soon, and I need a place to do a mastermind call, right? So I was looking for co-working spots, and there were 3 in the place where we'll be, and I had a really busy day yesterday, had lots of meetings, lots of things going on. And so I emailed all of them and I just said, hey, here's the situation. How much do you have a space available? How much would it cost? And the one place kept, like, they called me. I didn't answer because I was on a Zoom call. And then they sent me a text and I'm like, hey, great, on a Zoom call. You got the email about what I needed. Can you just email me back? Okay, we'll have somebody contact you. I'm like, no, email me, right? Like, I was like, all right, done with that one. Frustration. I'm like, okay, that's not, they don't get it. They don't value me. And that's fine. If I'm not their ideal customer, I just was trying to give them money and they made it very difficult for me. So again, just thinking through that, right? So if your customer says, hey, can you email me back? Don't call them. Right? You can email them back and actually give them some information and say, hey, but there's a little bit more to this. I'd love to have a conversation if that's possible. If that's not, we'll figure it out. Right. Just things like that, or vice versa. Right. Some people don't want the email and they're like, hey, can you just call me? Okay. I'm not somebody that likes to pick up the phone, but if somebody says, hey, just call me, I will pick up the phone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. You had that experience because I can only imagine what you were thinking in that moment. I almost texted you at 10 yesterday too, but I didn't.
Yeah, that's all right. I got my normal text at 10 o'clock on 2 regular guys' day, 10:15 for sure, from my father.
One more thing on this, I think, we're talking about the experience you want, your customer to have, but sometimes if you have a good friend or a parent, just have them sit by them and watch them go through your buying process and see what really happens. I mean, ultimately, you want the people in your life to have a great experience, right? And ultimately, that's your customers. So I think if you can actually see it in action, when we go through it, yes, we can learn.
Yeah.
And, and see what's there. But sometimes if you're watching other people do it, you're seeing it live.
Yeah.
And what's going on.
Got it. All right. Well, speaking of live, Kylene, those of you that are tuned in live, we want to hear from you. What what makes your buying process easy, or as you're thinking about this, where might you have some friction points? We'll happily walk through some of them and give you some on the spot
Yeah.
consulting, for lack of a better term there. So, all right, well, let's shift into the prepare phase, Kylene. So I think we can
Yeah.
get an understanding why this is a crucial step for business owners. But before we dive into action, right, the process is always, okay, let's get our mindset right, understand why this is important. Let's then make sure we have a little bit of a plan, right? We don't have to have it perfect. We don't need to overanalyze things, but let's think logically about it quickly before we start, just throwing stuff against the wall to see what'll stick. I never know if that analogy lands, by the way. So you guys will have to tell me. Do people understand when I say throwing things against the wall to see what will stick?
I think most people would, but
Do you understand it, Kylene? I guess let's start there.
yeah, it's like trying things and being willing to fail. To see what's working, and if it works, then you can build from it. If it doesn't, what can you learn and pivot and move forward?
Do you know where that saying came from, though?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, it came from that was the, I don't know, for, again, lack of a better term, I'm not coming up with great terms here this morning, but the old wives' tale that was how you determined if spaghetti was done. You would throw it up against the wall, and if it stuck, it was done.
Well, I knew that, but
So,
I didn't know that's where it came from.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm making that up too. But anyhow, all right. So we at least know that. All right. So we need to prepare. We need to kind of shift our perspective a little bit. Just make sure that, okay, now that we're going, okay, yeah, I do need to make some changes, some updates here. So again, you guys in the comments there, jump in there. Excuse me. But I think to kind of start this off, I have discovered for me, and again, the folks that I've been able to work with on this, most of our friction that we create for our customers unknowingly comes from assumptions that we make or generalities that where we don't want to put people in a box, right? So we got to give them all the options. And that means that we're assuming that the customer knows what to do, right? And so we think we're being kind and we think we're being caring by generalities and kind of, oh, well, you want to do this, you want to do this. Yeah. Okay. We'll figure it out. And they're like, I don't know. I just want to give you my money. So just tell me how to do that. And so I would write this statement down and maybe post it somewhere. And I don't know if I'm talking directly to you or not, Kylene, but post-it note, clear is kind. All right. So don't assume people understand your lingo or internal processes. By simplifying it, you're not dumbing it down. You're not assuming that they're not smart. You're just making it easier on them. So clear is kind. And then one more thing before I turn it over to you, unless you have something you need to slip in there real quick.
No, you can go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. I want to be clear, though, that I'm not saying that choices are bad, but when they're just unguided, right? Like, Kylene, sometimes it's like you and I in the evening, right? Like, oh, well, what should we do about this? Or what do you want to have for dinner? Or all this stuff. And sometimes I get a little bit frustrated because I'm like, I am on decision overload right now. And I really honestly don't care. So if you have something that you specifically want, please just say it. That's kind of what's going on. And I never get that out in the kind way. Right. So we need to guide our customers to the choices so they're not overwhelmed, and so, just kind of from a practical standpoint, what that could look like, just offering tiers, offering recommended options, things like that, right? Like, we can put it into the context of, like if I really wanted something for dinner, but I was trying to be nice and just say, hey, Kylene, what do you want for dinner? But yet in the back of my mind, I've got a preference, right? The better thing to do would be, okay, yeah, I do want to give Kylene some options. We want to make this decision together. But I can say, hey, I'm thinking about dinner. Here's the things that, here's a couple options I'm thinking. What do you think? And that would be, a little easier, a little less friction, right? So.
Yeah, you're kind of guiding them along the way.
For sure. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, and it really comes down to trying to be everything to everyone when you dump it all on them.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I've ever done that before.
Nor have I. Right. That's the crazy part. I talk about these things, and then every once in a while I get kind of smacked up the side of the head going, Aaron, you were just telling people about this, and boy, oh boy,
Yep.
that's okay. That's just part of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before you get into some of your points there, Kylene, I did want to share Sandy's. I know you guys can see it over on the right side too, but I want to highlight this. I know I don't have all my product options available on my website. I always tell people, if you don't see what you want, let me know. I'm sure I lose sales because they're not on the website. And okay, so Sandy knows me. I like to play devil's advocate a little bit. I would honestly think the opposite, right? Like, okay, maybe you're losing a sale to somebody that's not your ideal customer. But I think by giving them less options, right? Like the people that you really want to do business with, they will say, well, I don't see that, but can you do this? Yes. Now I can make that easy for you. But if you just like kind of generally threw all of your options out there to everyone, they're going to have that paralysis of going, I don't know. I came to Sandy because she's the expert. She knows this stuff. And now I've got to pick out all these options. Right. And so she said, updating and adding to the website is always a work in progress. And so, again, playing devil's advocate in the whole thing, Sandy, is, maybe, right. The updating is to actually make it more simple. I don't know. Right. So Kylene, thoughts on that, or what points do you want to bring up here?
Yeah, I mean, and it also could be, why we're talking about this is to check in with your business, maybe check in with your customers and their buying process and see what they say, what kind of feedback do they have for you. But ultimately, yeah, if we're trying to be everything to everyone instead of just focusing on our ideal customer and then the other things come from that, I think the clearer you can be, the better. I actually kind of liked, if you don't see what you want, you could reach out. That might reach some people who are going to reach out to you anyway, I guess is what I'm trying to say, if
Okay.
that's her ideal customer.
Yeah,
But
I love it. No, that's good. Really good stuff. Okay. All right. What other points do you have in the prepare phase here, Kylene, that you want to?
yeah, I just think, we need to remember, just because we understand our process and how it works, we're so in it.
Yeah.
It really does not mean that our customers understand it. And so that's why this is so important, again, to kind of go through this process and experience it like your customer would. So the slow response time, even if it's accidental, it's really important that can feel like almost a rejection, a negative, to a customer who's ready to buy, and so they will leave. So sometimes, it is out of our control if everything's running a little bit slower, but it's good for you to be in there every now and then to understand what it's looking like. I don't know the technical side to that one, Aaron, if you have more to add on how.
As far as response, I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, slow response time. If we go back to what we talked about at the beginning, if we are making purchasing decisions based on emotions, which scientifically has been proven, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then think about that, right? If I'm emotionally charged, I'm interested in buying, what happens to most of our emotions, right? Do they just stay like that? Do we stay super jacked about something forever? Or do other things happen in our lives that all of a sudden change our emotions?
Yep.
So
Yep.
if you don't catch people when they're emotionally charged and ready to purchase, if they've got a question, if they, you need to be part of the next step for them, etc., then the likelihood of that sale still happening gets lower and lower every moment that you wait to get back to them, every moment that you wait to get the project started, this, that, or the other thing, right? So I know it's hard, right? We can't be all things to everyone all the time, everywhere, but that's why it's so important to have a structured setup and a structured way that we then say, okay, great. Yep. Reach out to me here. And if, like for me, if you email me, you will get a response rather quickly, right? And I certainly gauge what those emails are, and some people, but even if I can't respond right away with like a full reply, I try to say, hey, got your email. cool. Do you mind if I get back with you? Right. And then they've got, okay, I've got that trust, right? Because
Yeah.
transparency builds that trust. So thinking about things like even your pricing, right? If your pricing is not clear, like I was working with a consulting client the other day, and we were talking about a program that she's offering, and we were working on her pricing structure. And her pricing structure was, it depends, right? And that at its core, at its heart, that was true. That was 100% true, because she works to kind of bespoke or customize each program for whoever it is that she's working with. So it totally does depend. But from an emotional standpoint, if you heard, well, it depends, does that keep you excited about it, right? So we talked about how can you go and say, okay, here's the structure that we use to make sure that we get you the exact value that you need, as opposed to it depends, can we talk about it more? Like, no, we're talking about it now. And so I need to go, yeah, I'm interested. And then she needs to be able to say, great, here's the next step.
Yep. Well, I think like part of this really comes down to the confidence that you have and you're giving to that customer, because if you're clear about your process, they're going to trust that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you go from there. You're going to be an expert in that process, and you're going to share that clearly with them. And then they're going to trust you and keep moving forward as your customer. And then they will speak up, if eventually in their next purchase, maybe they wanted something different, but that wasn't part of your process. Once they trust you, they're going to be comfortable enough to build that relationship with you moving forward.
Yeah. 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 And, if they're confused, Kylene, do you think that they're, especially somebody brand new that knows nothing about you, that has, 100 other options, do you think they're going to go out of their way to be bullet point clear about here's where I was confused and why, right? Unless they really, really have to have your thing and you're the only one that can provide it, I'm pretty sure they're going to move on. Is that true?
100% true. I mean, we move at such a fast pace that, we just sometimes don't have the time to care. So if we have a challenging thing, and like Aaron said, there's some times where they just really, really, really love what it is that you do, or you as a person, they'll probably put more effort in. But most people are just going to move on to the next.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Doug, I want to know more about so Doug says, and you guys can see it over on the right next to Kylene over there. Please extend, he writes, please extend every courtesy to Mr. and Mrs. Smith on his business card. And he gives that to his clients. Every company person in my customer client chain knows to react. Costs me nothing, makes my clients feel special. Now, Doug is in the housing world. So he builds custom homes and also offers some beautiful beachfront property over in the Virgin Islands, and where Kylene and I will be. That's on our bucket list of being part of that with Doug, getting out there and purchasing one of those things. He knows this. So he knows that my goal is to be part of that community with him. So what I'm hearing, though, is that just makes that customer say, oh, well, Doug's saying I'm a VIP. So everybody that he talks to, I can pull out this card kind of as my VIP card, Doug Quinn business card, VIP card as well. Right. And so that's what I'm hearing. Kylene, is that what you're hearing in that too?
Yeah. I mean, you're appreciating that customer, you're recognizing them, and they feel special as a result. And then guess what? That builds that trust and relationship. And then those transactions are easier after.
Yep, for sure. All right. Well, let's wrap up the prepare phase here. I want to share one more thing, and I'll let you wrap it up. But at this prepare or this planning phase here, as we're thinking about this, it really can be a simple question. Where am I making customers do extra mental work that I could take off their plate? Right. So like a bundle, do I need to add the two together and do math? I don't want to use the H word, but I very much dislike doing math in my head because I've told myself I'm not good at it. Right. So if you make me do math in my head, that's going to probably lose me pretty quick. Right. So there's some mental work that you could do for me. Right. That type of thing. So where am I making the customer do extra mental work that I could take off their plates? If you guys want to write that down, and I will post it in the comments too.
Yeah, that's powerful. You
Yeah.
can get a lot from that.
Yep. All right. Well,
But you have to put yourself in your customer's shoes to do that.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So how are we going to close up the prepare phase, Kylene, before we get into the action phase here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, I'm just going to touch on some highlights here to kind of overview, but really remember we're building our systems for us, but until we experience it as a customer, we're never going to know what it's like on the other side. And it just because, your process, your customer might not. So keep it simple. What was your clear
Yes.
is kind?
Oh, clear as kind. Yeah. Sorry.
Clear is kind.
Yeah.
It really is. And as soon as you're confident about your process, the clearer you can talk about it, the clearer you can share it, the more trust you're going to have with that customer.
Yeah.
And reassurance can be simple, and then showing them what comes next or giving them that contact point. Not if this, then that, if this, then that, just keep that off. And I would say, just people who we love to serve, we love to help.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's something we really need to be aware of, because naturally that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So we have to really understand what's going to work best, and simple is definitely clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And, where have you done that or seen that for yourself inside of maybe posting on social media, for example, right? Like how does that work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's still a journey and a work in progress, because I want to meet everyone's needs. So, I say gentle yoga if I'm talking about my yoga business. In my mind, I know what gentle yoga is, but some people might not. They might think it's easier yoga, but it still might be intimidating. They don't know that it means, you can have modified poses. But then when they go to the website, I try to explain it, but again, it still might not be clear. So it's always a work in progress when I get them to the website from social media, understanding how I'm sharing that.
Yeah. And this is so getting into the pollinate phase here, and the action that we can take this is what's really difficult, I've found, for people like yourself, Kylene, who are ultimate servers, somebody like Sandy, who's just a caregiver, right? A little bit for me, not quite as bad, because that's lower on my strength section there. But the only way to know is you do have to ask people, right? You just have to have that question of, okay, so, I shared that I've got yoga on Thursday morning, gentle yoga on Thursday morning. Why are you not coming? You indicated, you kind of gave me the feeling that you were interested in that. Right? And so you got to get to that point where, maybe not that direct and forward, but you got to get that answer, right? You can't just settle for, I don't know, right? Because you're never going to get your system to a point where it is simple for your ideal customers, right? So if there's somebody that you're like, boy, this seems like the person that I should be working with, and for whatever reason you can't get them there, right? Like, you got to keep asking until you get the details, and that just is over and over again. But I think a big part of it, Kylene, is we do need to start by evaluating the big picture of things, looking at your whole system, right? Not even just the sales, but once you've kind of had the sales process where you've asked for the order or asked for them to give you money. Excuse me, I hit my mic there. But then afterwards, right, the process of getting that order or that job into quote unquote production, and then even the follow-up can create some friction, right? If depending on how that goes, the fulfillment, because once you've got a customer, having that customer do business with you again is the best thing you can do for your business, because that's the cheapest customer to work with, right? And so really, at the end of the day, think about your big picture process and understand that your friction is going to hide in the handoffs from the point of them to you, anywhere along the way. So what's your thought here, Kylene?
The thought is I need to do what we're talking about here and in my own process, because it is true. We do need to ask those questions, and we do need to understand if we're not getting those outcomes that we want. How do you get there, right?
Yep.
You have to ask, and I think it comes down to just being open and honest, and not making up the stories that we're assuming, and just facing it head on,
Sure.
so we can adjust, because we wouldn't have a business if we weren't passionate about it. So
Yeah.
we need to.
Well, I think, Kylene, inside of your first 2 bullet points there might be some stuff to share.
Yeah.
Did you lose your
Well, I think I lost where we were, but I mean, it just comes down to, like, your process. We get it, but does your customer get it?
Okay.
It really comes down to that.
If Kylene's not clear, maybe the rest of the folks aren't clear here. So we have moved on to the pollinate phase here, and so we're talking about that, right? And talking about looking at your whole system. I guess another thing, Kylene, people can do is ask yourself, where do you repeat yourself constantly, right? Like, do you have a frequently asked questions section on your website? Which is great. That'll reduce friction very quickly if that's easily accessible. But sometimes some of your frequently asked questions can just be gotten rid of. Like, ask yourself, well, why does that have to be the case? Why do I have to explain that every time? Right? Or if you have an email template that you're constantly sending out, that's great. And again, that could be the solution. But take it another step. Like, can I eliminate that step? So just thinking about where you repeat yourself constantly. So give us your couple points there, Kylene.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the FAQ section on websites, because, like you said, when we first started setting up, when we had the Shopify part of our store, you immediately were like, okay, this is a frequently thing. We're going to put it in the FAQ. You like immediately had that system down so people could go there first and get their answer. But then if it's a frequently asked, then how do you change your system to adjust that? So it's not can you, I guess is the question. Can you adjust it?
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, so you're not going to get there, but using your own shopping experiences, right? Thinking about that. What do you love? Why do you love buying from certain places, right? Like even Kylene, like thinking about for yourself, right? Like if I ask you to go anywhere but the Schnucks right up the street, you normally push pretty hard against that, right? So what is it about that experience that makes you want to go there? And how can you take some of those ideas and implement them into your business?
Yeah. That's a great example. So I do go to this grocery store every time because I know where things are. It's clean and people are friendly. Like I know I can get in and out and no issues. I go to another one and the store's set up differently. I don't know where it is. I'm going in circles. Things are disorganized, and then I leave and the checkout person's really cranky. I'm like, I just leave with a negative feeling. So I will pay a little bit more to go somewhere where it is convenient for me. So yeah, I guess when you look at it that way, that's pretty.
Then take the next step though. How does that translate into your business?
Yeah, I want my customer to be able to come to my website, sign up for a yoga class, and feel really good about the experience and excited to come to class after they hit sign up.
So take it another step further. Like, do a lot of people go to your website, or how are people learning about you?
I need to share more. Okay. Yeah.
But is that clear? Does everybody know exactly what to do and when? And is it clean and friendly?
In my eyes, yes, but okay. I need to sit and
yeah, I'm not trying to guide you into the answer here. What I'm saying is those are the things that we need to question, right? And have that honest conversation with ourselves. Is that really true, right? And then if you maybe have that little bit inside of you that's like, I'm not sure, well then ask, right? If you're not sure where to start, ask the last 5 people who did business with you, was there anything confusing or unclear about working with me? Like you might learn like right away when somebody says, oh man, this was way different than I expected. It's so much more, right? I gave it a shot, but I didn't think it was going to be this awesome, right? Like, well, that's a very clear sign that somewhere upstream there's some confusion there, right? You just happen to get somebody to come through. But if you ever hear somebody say that, that should be like a flashing light going off. Not like, oh my gosh, negative, everything's terrible. I'm
Yeah.
all this stuff. It's like, cool. That's really awesome information. Now I know, right? Maybe you ask them another question. Oh, cool. So how come you thought that it was going to be different than this? Right? I said, I'm just using Kylene as an example here, but
Yeah.
I said gentle yoga. Did you think that we were just going to do savasana the whole time? And for those that are non-yoga, that's my favorite pose, where you just lay down on your back.
The corpse pose. Yeah.
That's not actually what you are supposed to do, folks. It's a bad yoga joke. So you are on your back, but it's more than just laying there. All right. So I guess the other part of this, Kylene, is our customers waiting for you to move things forward. So I will give a quick example. And this isn't specifically a customer thing, but in a way, in this person's world, it was kind of, this was their business is about the people and getting, so it's a nonprofit organization. So they need people that are working. And so that's kind of the customer, right? And there was a question about, okay, I need somebody to help with this thing. And so we were talking and like, well, there's this person here that would be ideal for it. But, they haven't committed yet. And I was like, oh, well, have you talked to them? Well, yeah, kind of. I'm like, well, are they really clear what the situation is? I think so. And that was just kind of like the flashing light bulb moment that, And so after I left, they went and talked to that person, and I get a message an hour later, we got that person, yay, excitement, right? And so there was that friction of waiting to move things forward. And we assume that people are going to move things forward on their own. But this is your business. This is your livelihood. You're 100% responsible for your success. Mm-hmm. So if things aren't going the way you want them to, how can you encourage people to take that next step, right? How can you ask one more person? How can you make sure that you're really clear, right? I always assume that I am not clear at all. And maybe that's probably why I'm so verbose, is because I want to try to explain myself. And so I have to find that balance. But from that place of assuming that I'm not clear at all, it really helps me make sure that my communication is clear, mm-hmm. because I'm looking for signs of, okay, does this person actually understand what I'm saying? Right. So mm-hmm. What are your thoughts there, Kylene?
It's interesting. So I think I love that you shared that that's how your brain operates, and which is why you're so detail oriented and clear that's why you're teaching and you do this, right? This is you're really good at it. But for someone like me, I'm the general queen. I mean, I just,
your job for most of your adult career.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so I'm getting better asking those follow-up questions. And I think what you said, if you start with that mindset of just, people don't understand, so you're going to be clear, you're probably going to share the right information. But just staying in that mindset when you're communicating, I think will really help. Or check in with them. Are you still with me? Any questions so far? If it is that complicated.
Yeah. And I would go so far as to say, even if it's not, Kylene, what's it going to hurt to check in with somebody and go, hey, I thought we were going to, I thought you were going to show up to yoga, or I thought you're, hey, I've got this quote that's out there open. Right. And, I've heard some people go, well, I've got a 3-strike rule. Well, we'll go look at the science. Most people take 9 to 21 contact points before they make a buying decision. So if you've got a 3-strike rule, that, you don't hear back after 3 times, you're probably missing out on 90% of your potential sales.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's start wrapping this up a little bit, Kylene. First, I
Mhm.
want to just make sure that we give everybody this grace, right? They might be thinking about this and starting to feel a little overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, I've got so many things in my system to fix potentially, or I don't know. Who knows if I'm clear or not, right? Just the fact that you're thinking about this right now will pay huge dividends down the road. And you don't need to fix everything at once, right? Just being intentional and having that awareness that you should be looking for opportunities to be clear and reduce friction will just naturally start to fix those things for you over time, right? So just take a deep breath. Everything's good, right? You don't need to fix everything all at once, right?
Mhm.
I would just be really intentional and say, okay, what could be one friction point? Doesn't have to be the biggest friction point, just one that shows up, right? What shows up for me right now as we've been listening to this or communicating, right? So, right, Kylene, for you, like what would be one friction point that you could think of?
How do I sign up for a class?
How do I sign up for class? There you go. Right. And so it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be anything more than just maybe I just need to be a little more direct in my sharing. Right. That could be the fix that you need. Simple and easy. But if we're worried about the whole thing, it feels overwhelming and we don't get to it. Right. So the system doesn't need to be perfect, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Way to
Progress.
see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Progress over perfection. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's close with a couple of bonus ideas here, some real practical stuff, Kylene, and we can just kind of go back and forth on this. You want to share your bonus idea first?
Yeah. So, one of the things you could do on your website or socials is, you could add how to work with us page
Mm-hmm.
or graphic, just to make it the process crystal clear. So maybe it's like a flow chart or something like that you're showing.
Got it.
Would be really important.
So we're switching lists now.
You have bonus idea.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Switch lists. So the
Oh,
other
I'm
idea,
sorry, Aaron.
that's fine. We'll switch lists. The other bonus idea is to include a short welcome video or even audio message after the order's placed. Right. I mentioned that we need to look at our whole process and go, well, wait a second. I got the order.
Yep.
Why am I trying to fix something on the other side? Well, now they're going to be interacting with you again. That second order with your business is going to be the most profitable one, or then every time you get a reorder, that's more profitable than the one before. And so just kind of setting those expectations, letting them know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just simply thanking them. Hey, thank you so much for signing up for this. Thank you so much for your purchase.
Yeah.
Here's what's going to happen. We've got to get the product in, or you're going to, show up at this thing or whatever that is for you. And then we're going to get to work on this, give it all the love and care that you need. You can expect it between this and this.
Yeah.
Again, just map it all out for them and give them that set of expectation. And that really humanizes the process, where it takes it away from feeling very transactional and keeps that emotional feeling high. They keep staying excited about it and they can't wait to do business with you again.
Yeah, I like that. Another bonus idea is you can have a checklist or a welcome email. Here's what to expect next. Just those next steps, like you were just talking about. It just keeps people excited, engaged, and clear about what to know. How working with you is how it's going to look.
Perfect. Love it. Yeah. I mean, again, there's no wrong way to do this. There's no wrong way to have more clarity for your customers. So we just want to give you some ideas, whether that's a video message, audio message, checklist, email follow-up, whatever it is. The more you can be clear, the better, right? All right. The next idea, for those that, need to get in front of customers, maybe they're doing, like I was talking about earlier, somebody doing a custom program for people. One of the most challenging things that we have is this back and forth, right? One of the reasons that I'm not a huge fan personally of the phone is that when you pick up the phone and call me, it's on your time, right? So especially if I'm trying to give money to somebody and they're going to steal my time from me, that's like a no-no, right? And so getting people on the same page, so using a tool like Calendly, Calendly, there's a free version of it. We actually use the free version to schedule our podcast episodes, for example. But if you need a book consultation, right? Like even if you're like a custom gift person, right, and you need to have a quote put together, but you want to
Mm-hmm.
have a consult about it, right? Maybe you call it a brand consult, right? In Calendly, you can actually set up and have them fill out the details that you need to have a quote available for them. But then it leads into a 15-minute, 30-minute Zoom call, meeting, phone call, in-person meeting, whatever. And that eliminates all the back and forth, Kylene. That's a huge
Yeah.
step that'll clear up things for people.
Yeah, and I can say I can use Calendly. It's very user friendly.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And then one more, bonus idea, kind of, and Aaron's already kind of touched on it, but, really just that follow up after delivery of how their experience went, really, truly appreciating them. And it's not to sell them more. It is really just truly appreciating their business, and building that relationship moving forward. And maybe you do give them like a QR code for a discount in the future, but that's not really your purpose. The purpose is just to build that relationship and make sure they got what they were hoping for.
Yeah. And to go back to that point, Kylene, about the fact that the second transaction or future transactions are always more profitable for businesses, right? Like, yeah, how can you make that easier? Like you said, maybe it's a QR code, but instead of saying, hey, just reaching out to see what you need next, if you've got somebody that, you understand their business, they're one of your top tier customers, and approximately what they want, then why not even take it one step further and say, okay, every 3 months they order X number of things. Okay, so 3 months from now, you send them a link to say, okay, I've got that order for you. If you just want to, hit this link right here and pay for it, we'll get it rolling for you. But if you need to change anything, update anything, that's totally fine too. Right? Like, just how do you reduce that friction? So go that extra mile, make that next step, right? I think a lot of times, again, going back to what I shared earlier on, that friction comes from assumptions and generalities, and what Kylene re-highlighted for me, that clear is kind. Take that next step, and that will bring you the next bit of clarity. All right. So does that make sense, Kylene?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I feel like I really needed this show because I need to take a look at this myself.
Well, that's the great part about sharing for everybody out there, right? If you're going, man, I don't know if I should write a blog or if I should do a video or whatever. What you guys need to realize is the stuff that Kylene and I are sharing here. A lot of times this is for us, and it just happens to be a bonus that we can share some things with you guys too. So, think about that for yourself. But all right, well, let's go ahead and close this up, Kylene. This has been a great conversation, and we want to get off on our vacation here.
Yeah. So, as you're looking at this, it's really important. Hopefully we got that across. But remember, it is a work in progress and it's constantly evolving. So give yourself a little bit of grace here. Aaron loves that word, but be kind to yourself as you go through it. If something wasn't working, at least you have the awareness now and you can continue to move forward. As Aaron mentioned too before, we both are a work in progress. We're constantly evolving and changing and improving our businesses as best as we can. And so that's why we want to discuss all of this with you.
Yeah. So I want to clear something up. I actually very much love the word grace, and I love what it means, and I love what it's all about. I just know that we can't plant ourselves there. That can't be base camp, right? Grace is supposed to be a launch pad that then allows us to say, okay, maybe I didn't get it exactly right the last time. I'm going to give myself grace. It's what you do next that's important, right? So
I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah, you made it sound like I was against grace. I'm all about grace. I give everybody grace because I need a ton of grace myself. So. All right. Well, you guys, hey, thank you so much for spending some time with us. If this episode did spark some things for you and you would like some more, in fact, I want to get into even more specifics. We gave you some bonus ideas here, but if you'll head over to LinkedIn, I just put the link in the chat here, and I will put that up on the screen here. It's kind of a long one, so you just want to click on the link. I will put it in the comments here as well. Well, it is in the comments now, actually. So there it goes. There, I was waiting for it to get into Facebook, and it didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's on all three locations: Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. On Monday, there will be a blog drop over there with 7 more ways to reduce friction in your buying process. So if you'll just go to that link and subscribe to that newsletter, it will also be on our Success Groups page. So if you're already subscribed to that, that's fine. But LinkedIn just seems to be where more people want to follow those blogs that I'll post. So make sure you get over there and check that out.
Yeah, I love it. And remember, you don't need to overhaul everything all at once. Just start with one small fix, build that momentum, and that little tiny shift over time definitely can make some big differences in the long run.
Absolutely. And Kylene, we're going to close a little bit differently, but we want people to get over into the Entrepreneur Success Hub. Bunch of cool things happening over there. Just in general, right? The conversations for those that to get in and participate. There's tons of value in there for everybody involved, but you got to participate, right? And I know it's deeper stuff. I know it's not the surface level. Do you like pineapple on pizza? I don't know why I'm bringing that one up, but that's like my surface level stuff, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but you got to get deep, right? If you want to be successful long term, you've got to get a little bit more depth into what you're thinking about and what you're doing. So head over to Entrepreneur Success Hub. If you'll go to osg.link/group. Actually, we're going to close with a little commercial, for lack of a better term, about the group. But definitely get over there. Tell us what you're changing, where you're seeing friction. Maybe put some of your ideas based on what you've heard here today.
Yeah, I love it. And then thank you guys for joining us here today. It means the world to us, and let's make it easy for our customers to say yes to what we're offering.
Absolutely. So Kylene, next Saturday, we're going to drop an episode back at our normal time of noon Central, talking about the art of business planning, the why of why it's important, the what matters inside a business plan. It's not what we think, right? And I think that's one of the reasons that holds people back from actually writing a business plan. And then how do we do it? How do we get started? So we're going to talk about all that next week. So let's see everybody then, Kylene.
Yep, looking forward to it.
Hey, business owners, have you lost some of that spark in your business? Or maybe you love what you get to do and you want to share that joy with others. Either way, the Entrepreneur Success Hub is the community you've been looking for. In this group, we believe that every question is worth asking and your voice matters. Whether you're facing challenges or ready to celebrate successes, we've got a space for you to learn, grow, and connect with like-minded entrepreneurs. Join us for weekly video shows like the Rising Tide Talks and Small Business Saturdays. Also, get the latest announcements for our webinars and other educational content, all designed to help you fall in love with your business all over again. Plus, in the group, we've got fun challenges like our Gratitude Challenge and other resources to keep you inspired and focused on what matters most. Plus, you'll be part of a growing community of supportive business owners who understand what you're going through. Get into the group, be engaged. This is your space to ask questions, share experiences, and rediscover the joy of entrepreneurship. Head to osg.link/group and join the Entrepreneur Success Hub today. Together, we'll fall in love with our business and achieve our goals.
Okay. So that's it, everybody. We're just going to get out of here. Speaking of challenges, Becky Kotzer is starting a new challenge, a gratitude challenge, July 1st. So get in there. There's a post in there where you can say you're in. So get in onto that post, say you're in. There's even conversations started over there already. So can't wait for that. Thank you, Becky, for putting that together. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you next week.
Have a great week. Bye.